Hello, welcome to the first live stream. Hopefully we've got a few of you joining us on, and I'm joined by the Rules Council, or a few of the valid. Is it the Rules Council? Folk keep telling me off for this. Is it the Rules Council or the Rules Committee?
It's the Rules Committee, but we decided at about 1 o'clock on Saturday night, Sunday morning, that it should be the Rules Council.
I'm glad to see you're having an important debate there of all the things that need sorted. That's the one you guys went with.
We really, at that point, should be the Council of Seven, shouldn't we?
Ooh, that actually works.
So anyway, introductions aside, up in the top left there we have Chris, our token American in the broadcast.
Hello.
Down the bottom we have Nick Williams, who doesn't have a temper.
No temper on me. No.
And down the bottom right we have the UK number 2, who also can't make a webcam work to save himself, Dan King.
I don't own a webcam.
I notice you're not. I'm notice you're not protesting the UK number 2 anymore. Have you ran out of arguments?
Bar humbug.
Also, you didn't tell us we needed webcams.
Well,
YouTube,
that's true.
Visual medium, guys. Come on, visual
it
medium.
was fine
Nick,
with Google Hangout.
Nick would have combed his hair then.
So global there.
He would, but he can't fit a brush in his underpants.
So anyway, if anyone's watching and you've got a question, fire it up. I'm not going there, guys. I'm just leaving that one sitting there. I forgot to have the no pun joke. So anyway, if you watch live, you've got a question, fire it up. Otherwise, the classic starter for 10-1 that comes up regularly on the Kings of War Fanatics. How the hell do you guys actually balance things? Do you balance it, or do you just pull it out of a mythical space of magic and mystery?
So I have a Excel spreadsheet set up where I can type any numbers in, and it will generate random numbers for the points to come back with, and that's mostly what we use. So it's just random choice, really. Eventually, we're going to make a really unbalanced unit, and people are going to be annoyed, but that's the process that we go through.
Yeah, I have a heck of a dart to use at my house, and then we just put it into an algorithm with Nick's spreadsheet, and there you go.
Right, so I was going to ask Chris for the sensible answer here, since I thought he might be the adult of the group. Dan! Jeez, man, Dan for the sensible answer.
I mostly do the puns, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you got the sensible answer.
Yeah, he probably wants that.
We keep increasing the points until Dan says that he wouldn't take it anymore.
It's not a bad approach, I suppose. So anyway, you're going to give the actual answer now.
That is actually part of the discussion. It is. I mean, I'm the newbie, so I'm really new to trying to balance these units as we're talking about. Of course, the upcoming global campaign book and the source book later this year. We're going through that process right now, and it's an education process for me. But essentially, when we're designing a unit, we put it up against comparable units of what we, as far as designing the stat line, then we put up comparable units that have a similar stat line, take a look at what we have those pointed at, and then if there's any variation as far as additional abilities that unit has, there's kind of it's not an exact science, but it's kind of a ballpark number of what each of those abilities would add to the unit. And we keep kind of adding things on or taking things away as it compares to those other units, and have a very well-rounded discussion as far as balancing that point cost. And then if there's everybody that's on the rules committee plays the game, has played a variety of armies, and therefore has a really good feel as far as whether or not that unit's worth those points or if it's too high or too low. Mm-hmm. So it has worked really well, at least the process I've been involved with. But both Dan and Nick can talk about it a lot more than I can.
So does that mean, Dan, Nick, you're sort of two of the ones responsible for the current balance overall and the points values, etc., from 2nd edition onwards?
So it'd be the 5 of us.
A portion of the blame.
Go on then, Nick. What you're saying?
Okay, it's the 5 of us. So the rules committee, except for Chris here. So it'd be me, Dan, Sammy, Jason. No, not Jason. Ooh, not Jason. He's fairly new.
He's a veteran compared to me, though.
Yeah. So me, Dan, Sammy, Chris Morris, and previously Matt Gilbert, and he was replaced with Jason Mormon. And now Chris is. Chris
Technically,
is
we had
trying to-
well earlier, but that was quite a while ago.
Yes, but they didn't have much input.
There was also Alessio, which had something to do with second edition for a while.
There's his name in the book.
Yeah.
Yes, and he does get money from every single Kings of War book sold, which even the book that Nick wrote, probably.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Even I don't get money for every book sold.
You need to get Alessio's manager then.
Probably gets more than you do, Nick.
So you're given a new unit. You're given like a new model by Mantic, Nick. So they come along. They've given you this new model or this new kind of army range. What's the process you guys go through to go? Okay, we've got this new model. How are we going to come up with stats for it?
Okay, so there's kind of baseline stats throughout the game. So you look at the baseline for a base kin from your regiment, and it's the Kingdom's Men shield wall. Okay, and if you want to go like a more rubbish unit, then that baseline would be a goblin unit, and more elite than that, you're looking at elves or something like that. So we'll generally take the basic stat lines of one of these baselines that we use, and we'll just tweak it a little bit. So people think that you need to make like a big sweeping change to a stat line, and you don't. Just a couple of extra attacks, +1 nerve, +1 speed. Yeah. They make a huge difference. You don't need to go from melee 3+ to melee 2+ to make it really cool. Just a couple of extra attacks, maybe an extra special rule can, really nail that as a unique unit. You don't need to tweak much in Kings of War to really change how a unit's played.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we did with the summer campaign, for example. For the majority of the Living Legend units, not so much for characters, but certainly all the units, we only wanted 1 or 2 small tweaks. So it'd be something a bit different, but not massively so. Just to mix things up a little bit, add a little bit of interest and variety. And by doing that as well, you can keep things relatively balanced. And what we'll do as well, usually it'll be one person who'll take a unit and tweak it slightly, and then we'll all end up having a call. I mean, we will look over them beforehand potentially. We'll have a call, we'll look at it and go, actually, this looks okay, and then we might have another call, look at it again. Until eventually, we're all pretty happy with it. I mean, potentially Mantic could say, no, we don't like this, change that. But they do tend to mostly leave it to us these days. There was a time back in the mists of time when we had to push it all past Alessio, but he doesn't anymore and hasn't done since partway through the second edition books. So these days, Mantic leave it up to us because I don't think they've got time to do it themselves. So I think they're happy that leave the balance with us guys. So I mean, what was I was going to say is, I mean, sometimes as well, we'll also then put it out to the Cabal for them to have a look at. I mean, Chris Orr had quite a lot of experience with that previously before he joined, where we put. I mean, even entire lists sometimes. Of course, Night Stalkers and such were actually tested fully through the Cabal. So, yeah.
No. So I suppose that really was the next question, though, sort of leading up to there, was how much actual on-the-table playtesting do you do of these units?
As much as we can. We don't always have as much time as we'd like, but we have people running playtests for us all the time, and if we as the rules committee get a chance to playtest these things, then we will. But there's not like a set. Oh, it must have this many hours worth of playtesting. Yeah,
it's not really possible, really, to have for any one person, certainly in the rules committee, to be doing unlimited testing. We spend long enough chatting about things sometimes. We really do rely on others to help where they can. Plus, bear in mind, because we're basing it on, it's set on a baseline, and we know we've only made a slight tweak. We know within a few points we're going to be more or less fair. If we take a unit and add Fury to it, and it's all but identical to the previous unit, well, we know we've probably added 5 or 10 points at most to that unit. So it doesn't need hours of playtest to tell us that. We know from our previous experiences that that's because that's how we pointed it previously.
Yeah.
And by doing it the same way we did previously, we know that things are going to work out more or less correct. We're not always 100%, of course we're not. I mean, there's units out there that aren't perfect, and then that's why the Clash of King tweaks have helped. But usually with a decent sort of ballpark sort of thing. But yeah, that is why others helping playtest and such helps so much. I mean, with second edition, we had a huge public beta, and that was amazing. That was so good. Hundreds of people all around the world helping make second edition as good as it is, and it really shows. So hopefully, I mean, I've not heard anything from Mantic, but hopefully they'll let us do the same for third. And because it was always meant to be like a 5-year sort of cycle for second, and we're already a couple of years through. Hopefully they'll let us do the same for that, and then third edition will be a step further, but obviously that's still quite a way off yet. But, yeah.
So individually then, what would you think if there's one thing you could fix for third edition? What would it be? What would be the one thing you go, actually that we just got wrong, or that I don't like, it didn't work how I thought, this is how it had. You don't have to come up with the answer of what you'd change it to, because you probably don't have it, but what's the one thing you'd kind of fix?
Go on, I'll give you a quick answer. It's probably going to be Nick's, but I suspect he'd say putting hard limitations on characters like individuals. We really did go too extreme with some of them. Say vampires, for example, defense 6 individuals. That's so annoying. What we and just look at the what we called the fire things in Abyssals. Breath 20, a freet. We probably wouldn't be giving Breath 20 to a little individual again. It's possibly
Fireball.
A bit whatever, you know what I'm on about. It's possibly. There was actually a point where we removed the spell Fireball because I mean it is effective with breath, but anyway, whatever. So yeah, that's certainly one thing. Not to go quite so overboard, perhaps. I mean, it's not that they don't pay the points for it necessarily, but it can be a bit excessive sometimes. So
yeah, that's something that we're currently discussing in the rules committee. Certainly for the rest of second edition, I'd hope actually putting writing for third edition at the latest is having stat limitations. So saying your units can't exceed these stats. If they do exceed these stats, you have to have a very, very good reason why.
Right.
And it's to stop that ever increasing creep of the stats where it's just every new unit has to be more powerful than the last unit, and every new unit then has to be even more powerful than that unit. It just
Chris Morris
escalates.
What about you, Nick? What would be the one you'd change?
I think there's still some tweaks to be made to line of sight, particularly in the way that it interacts with some terrain. One of the quick changes that we were considering at one point in the second edition development, I wish we had gone for it, is increasing all the heights by 1. Because people get confused over height 0. Is it a height? Is it not a height? But it is a height. It's different to flat. But I accept that it's not very intuitive. Whereas if we started off with human infantry size models at height 2, that would start to make a lot more sense because obstacles would be height 1, Aucklands would be height 1, and we wouldn't have so much confusion about it. Now, interestingly, just before the book went to print, we got, was it an extra week or 2 weeks extension on it, Dan?
I don't think it was more than a week.
I think it must have been a week. So the book had been sent to the printers, but I managed to notice a very big mistake that the layout person had done, which was like so important that they had to pull the book back from the printers and essentially gave us another week to make any more typo corrections and things like that. And we cottoned onto this. I won't call it an issue. This potential area of confusion. And we were like, well, should we put the change through? Because if we put the change through, we won't get to see another copy of the PDF before it actually goes to print. So we could send all these changes through saying increase all heights by 1, but we wouldn't be able to review that and make sure that they'd all been done.
Yeah.
And we'd had
So it could be changed in some places, but not others. So.
Right.
Yeah. And we'd had instances in the past where we'd submitted a change for the book and it hadn't been done. And so that to us was quite a big risk. And we thought on the balance of it that we shouldn't go ahead with it and keep it as infantry at height 1. But I think in retrospect we should have gone for it, even if we'd have, had to make a couple of erratas on ones that hadn't been changed.
Yeah, fair enough. Chris, what about you then? What's your pet project?
Fairy tale princesses.
Oh, no. Well, we have a few things that we're discussing right now with the rules committee, and I'm on the losing end of some of those discussions. That's okay. I would agree with both Dan's and Nick's ones that they picked. Of course, I am opposed to more defense 6 heroes, especially individuals out there. I think they're incredibly powerful. They can just lock down entire sections of a table with one little 20 millimeter base, and it's just a little too good. So you've seen that already with the Clash of Kings changes, Pharaoh last year, and then adding to it with a vampire this year and things like that. So I expect more of that, I would guess, in the future, as we see just kind of how things are interacting. And then the height 0 terrain issue is an issue. I mean, I got it wrong even when I was doing the Lady of the Lake GT this last year. I was stating height 0 interacted differently, and Nick happened to be standing there and could correct me on that. So that was good. So I think changing some of that would really clear things up for people, because height 0 is kind of a confusing concept. And even what grants cover is a little bit confusing. Like, how many steps above is it that grants cover and things? So a height 4 monster doesn't get cover from a height 1 thing, but it does for height 2. And some people get a little confused when they have like a height 3 monstrous cav unit or something like that, or chariot unit, and suddenly that can see over height 0 without penalty. There's just some things I think could clear up a little bit there. One thing that I would like to see, and I'm not sure, it's going to take a lot of discussion before it would actually come into play, because it's potentially imbalancing, and I don't want to see the imbalance, the balance of the game thrown off. But one of the things I do like is a little more flavor being put on characters. I think there's a lot of flavor in the game with the units themselves, just the variety of artifacts you can add to units and give them a little different twist and things. And there's, of course, the artifact options for those characters and things. But just a couple more options on some characters, maybe some characters that could have a choice of, up to 2 artifacts and things, not necessarily from the full list, but from a certain list. I'm just throwing something out that I haven't even talked to the rules committee about, but I love being able to kind of really make something unique that you put out on the field, but not to the point where it'd be imbalancing. And I would just point back to the International Campaign Day that we did here this last time around. We allowed everybody to bring a character that was obviously not balanced by just being able to take 2 artifacts from the list that you wanted, up to 200 points. It was a lot of fun, and it was meant to be just fun, and it's just for a one-day campaign and for people to just have fun with it. But I think there's a way to do something like that to add a little more flavor to some characters and things. But that's like a ways off. And from the gameplay standpoint right now, I'm loving this game. I'm loving the balance. I'm loving the cleanness of the rules. I go to every tournament. I very rarely hear any rules disputes. Every now and again, you get something like, well, can a unit really make that charge when they're already 1 inch out from this other unit, because they have a unit, they're height 2, they're up against a height 1 unit, they can see a unit behind them, perhaps they have nimble or something, and it gets just it catches people off guard sometimes. They don't fully understand those pivoting rules, or that you don't have to maintain that 1 inch gap, when you're charging in things. Not that that's a rule change, but just something I think more people could be aware of. But that's about the only rules question I ever see pop up. Every now and again, it's a height 0 question for cover. But
just to clarify there, on the height 0 question, then what is the just to clarify? I'm pretty sure I understand it's basically height 0. If you're like a height 1 model, you still get cover for standing behind a height 0 terrain piece, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, just in case anyone at home didn't know that one.
Yep. And that's different to what's called in the book as flat terrain, which doesn't grant cover behind.
Right. Okay, so that's more your
Right? So you
tabletop.
can have like a river or a pond or something like
Mhm.
that, or a plowed field, you
Right.
know, or something that the TO has labeled height 0, and
Mhm.
suddenly, that's granting cover for up to, monsters infantry, height 2 models, cav models, and things like that. So
Right.
even though a TO may not anticipate that, which was my situation where I didn't want that to necessarily provide cover, but yeah. So you just have to specify that as a TO that it's height 0 but doesn't provide cover unless you're in it, or however you want to word that in your rule pack.
Cool. So, what are you guys working on just now then? There was mention of another campaign book, is it?
Yeah, it's the summer campaign book. So what we're doing at the moment is coming up with a new living legend and a new living legend unit for each of the Mantic armies. So that
Which
includes
is a
Empire
first.
of
I don't
Dust.
think we've had any living legend units up to this
There's
point.
one. There's one in the Brotherhood list.
Oh yes, that's right. Yep.
So yeah, there's each of the Mantic armies. So that's each of the ones that Mantic makes, plus any others.
So I'm
In
just curious
there,
here,
Yes.
when you guys,
Did
sorry,
Volunteer get some? Go on.
no, I was just going to ask. So you're talking about the living legend units there.
Mhm.
I'm just curious. What are you using them again as a sort of way to go? Well, that unit's actually a wee bit underpowered. Folk don't normally take that. Let's make a living legend version of it that's a bit better, so folk might actually take it. Or are you just how are you looking upon them?
Not
No,
necessarily.
we're just looking at some of the models that you perhaps don't see as often. Not because they're underpowered, because people just aren't trying the units out.
Yeah.
So whites, for example, we're giving them a living legend unit, which is a really cool idea of it. It's not because whites are underpowered. Trust me, I've used whites plenty. They're amazing.
No. I think they are all white.
Thanks for that, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather, to be perfect, but Nick just get his cock out and wave down the camera.
Well,
Oh, I don't want the stream cut off. Sorry, not a thought we all need.
but no, we're not looking at underpowered units or anything like that. We're just characterful units. Either if there's models which we don't see as often, or just because it's cool.
Yeah.
There's the Empire of Dust one is actually based on fluff.
There's
The reason
fluff for this game?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what the summer campaign's for.
I didn't realise it was fluff.
So I don't want to spill the beans on that, but I think that's going to be a really popular unit, and it's not because there's existing models for it. It's I suspect it's going to be a modeler's dream, that unit, but we had a really good fluff reason for it, and we said, why not? Yeah, we'll do that unit.
And what
There's
about?
other things as well. For example, I mean, undead. People have always said, "Oh, we'd really like a monster," So we're sort of nice to get that sort of thing coming on. So, actually, there's also the other book we've been working towards, the source book for later in the year with new units. So,
Yeah, I was going to say there's no undead monster in the.
No, I'm thinking of the source book.
Yeah.
We've also been working on.
So before we then get into that one, because that's quite interesting as well. So the summer campaign is it just like unit wise? Anyway, is it just 11 legend? Are you going to use this as an excuse to bring in more magic items or anything like that, or have you done the magic items for the year now, and that won't happen again to next year?
We've done the magic items for this year. Unless there's any that come into permanent rotation, I guess there might be some with the source book, but it's not something we've discussed or even thought about. But there's certainly no plans for new magic items. It's just the living legends in the campaign book confirmed.
So we've got the campaign book then with the 11 legends and the 11 legend units and characters. I'm assuming we're also going to be seeing scenarios. I'm guessing the hints in the name really. Campaign is it what sort of is it a guide to running your own campaign the same way you had the guide to running tournaments in the earlier book?
No, this is from my understanding certainly. This is all the background fluff for the summer campaign that they're going to be running.
Right.
So there will be some scenarios which are based on some of the battles of that campaign.
That'll be
I
good.
think it's set up as a 6-week campaign, I believe, is the plan. And so you'll have basically 6 scenarios for the campaign, one each week, reporting in results to the Mantic website.
Oh, right. They're going
and
old
things,
school GW
Beasts of
style.
War.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
That'll be good fun.
And so I think they're targeting August through mid-September is kind of the target now, I think, but that's always subject to change a little bit.
So Dan, then you mentioned the source book. With new units, Dan.
Yeah, that's the other thing we've been working on. We've been putting out the odd spoiler for ages. I mean, we've been talking about flying pigs for a while, haven't we? But to be honest, although we've done a lot of units and we've picked a lot, we don't know what Mantic wants. So we've sent the whole list over to them, and we need them to pick. They might come back and say, yeah, we want that. They might come back and say, no, we hate that. How about this? So yeah, we've designed a lot of units, but we don't know which is going to go in. But there will be new units, and again, this is for all the Mantic armies. So,
Right.
and there may be more for some armies than others. For example, Orcs don't have that many units, so we may give them more. So what it's going to do, it's going to add variety, and it's also going to change tactics. For example, again, it depends what Mantic selects, but personally for Dwarves, for example, I'm quite a proponent of, say, a Mastiff stroke Brock pack, and that'll be a bit of a faster infantry unit. Large infantry. So, and what we've got there is it's not hugely effective damage-wise, but it's chaff. And then you'll actually be able to run quite a nice, effective dwarf infantry army where you run them forward. You've got some chaff at last to throw away, and it's going to mix things up. Also, large cavalry dwarfs. That's what we want. Does Mantic want it? I don't know. You could have bears, you could have whatever you like.
See, that was my next
Awesome.
question. Did Mantic tell you, we've got these models we're planning? What comes first, the model or the unit?
Well, they're not wanting to put out anything that they're not wanting to make in the future. Whether or not it comes out side by side with the source book, it's anyone's guess. But
yeah, so they'll only accept the units that they actually want to make. So these will be getting models. So yeah, that one, as I say, that Monster for Undead, that sounds very, very cool. There's just a lot of really fun stuff.
Yeah, we're not necessarily going to be plugging all the holes in an army list. Like, for example, Orcs
No.
don't have shooting. The only thing that we've considered doing for Orcs is the unit that we've submitted is Orcs with hand grenades that are Abyssal Dwarf technology that they've nicked and started mass producing.
With hand grenades, really.
Yep. But it's not going to be, they're not going to get shooting hordes or anything like that.
Okay. And the Skypes managed to scrap all the cameras. I was afraid it would happen when somebody drops off. Just get some technical difficulties here. Now we've got a lovely close-up of Nick. Isn't that lovely? Yeah. Yeah, we'll just sort that out in a second here. Don't do that, Dad. That's just scary looking. I've completely lost where we've put Dan now in this thing.
Wow.
Okay, we've lost the Dan as well now because I can't afford.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh no, you're still there vocally. It's just your camera's not there because I cannot make it visible. Fortunately, there goes the editing. This is the one thing without doing it live. Damn it! Is the edits will get you every time. So anyway, I'll try and see if we can get Chris back. So sourcebook new stuff coming out. We've talked about sort of what you sort of would like to change. I suppose the next thing really is then if there's what you would change about what's currently there. What would you? Don't want to say sort of it's not so much a change, but what would you like proper just scrap if you could in the next edition, or would you is there anything you'd proper go actually you know what? It's not just sort of a little tweak here actually. If I had my way, if I was the Master El Duce of Kings of War, this is what I would do if I was the dictator.
I don't think there's anything really that I would flat out ditch because we had that exercise with first edition, where we ditched a lot of stuff that didn't need to be there and was actually quite game breaking. So I don't think there's anything that I'd flat out ditch personally. What about you, Dan?
No, I don't think there's anything I'd ditch. I am very happy with second. There's certainly things I'd change. For example, chariots. I'd quite like to see some changes to formations. It's not that they can't work, it's that they're very unwieldy. What I would do, and this is obviously up for discussion, is I would personally like sizes of 2, 3, 4, and 6. So that'd be troop, regiment, horde, and legion. So the current 6 could still be used, but it would now be a legion, so it'd be more offensive. So if you did take this giant unit, it would really mince things. Likewise, you've then got a troop option of 2 for people who don't want quite so many, and you can still use a single chariot for characters. So then you can use so many more possibilities. And I was thinking the 4 would be like 4 wide, so that'd be the new horde. So yeah, that's one thing I'd like to do. But say it's not a scrap specifically, but it would make them more flexible. And if you did take that unit of 6, it's going to make a mess of things. It's going to be big, expensive, and very, very nasty. That's what I'd like.
So how I suppose the other thing I wanted to sort of ask you guys about is something that comes up a lot is how do you guys take feedback on board? So you know, there's a lot of the classic is people start complaining that things are unbalanced, etc. How do you take that feedback on board? What's the kind of policy for dealing with it when the collective wisdom tells us a unit is broke?
Well, basically, we come out and go, "The cheeky beep."
So we look at I guess how calm and collected someone is when they're giving the feedback. If it's the sky's falling down, this is unusable, blah blah blah, that probably says that it's just too emotional to really read a lot into that feedback. But if someone can come up with good, consistent information that's backed up by actual information, that isn't just this is broken, I can't use it, therefore it's terrible, and I don't even need to put this on the table to see that it's broken. That's not usable to us, really.
Statistics, then you want good hard cold statistics from them. A spreadsheet.
Yeah, a spreadsheet would be fantastic. But just how logical the arguments are, I think is the other thing.
Yeah, because sometimes someone will say, "Oh, this unit is broken; it's no good," and then you look at it and you analyze it, and actually you see, that's not necessarily the case. I think what some people will do is they'll have like an impulsive decision without actually looking at things clearly. And when you do that, and you actually spend a few hours at it, analysing, and actually you see things quite differently. So,
yeah. So there was the recent. I would actually describe it as a meltdown. Unfortunately, when the book first came out, and someone on the forum started complaining about how weakness was overpowered and broken, and they said, "Oh, it's an absolute horde killer. You get 3 guys with blood boil.
Yeah.
You get 3 guys with blood boil, and they're going to absolutely destroy any unit in the game." And so then I sat down and crunched the numbers and presented the numbers back. I said, "Look, this is how much damage they'll do. This is how many points you're paying to deal that damage. It only becomes effective when the unit has like over, I think, 12 or 14 wounds on it already. Anything less than that, and it'd just be more effective for you to use fireball or breath attack or something." But on the other hand, so one of the things that got Jason Mormon onto the rules committee was just that he was so logical and really persuasive in his arguments. He would back it up with playtesting. He would give specific situations where he felt that the game wasn't quite working properly, where units were being a bit too good for what you were paying for them. And when he was doing that, it was really, really useful feedback for us. And so that's the sort of feedback that we were listening to more than someone said that the sky's falling.
Yeah. That's good to know. Okay, so I think we've got Chris back now.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you back now.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Computer issues.
So we were just talking about user feedback there, really, and what makes good user feedback and what doesn't. Oh, right. Now you're taking up 2 screens. You've completely shoved Dan off.
How dare
no major loss there, to be honest. No honesty. Where's the control?
Well, that's just unpleasant.
There he is. There's Dan's pretty face. Well, not his pretty face.
Isn't it a picture of my dog?
Yes, it's a picture of your dog.
Yes.
Which,
Okay,
let's be blunt,
fine.
we'd all rather look at than you, Dan.
Which, in fairness, we should have Nick's dog up there. It's just about as famous as Nick is.
Well, she's decided to start squeaking a toy in the background as we're recording this, so I keep hopping on mute.
Well,
Being a little cow she is.
We'll do a Dogs of War podcast at some time where we can all get our dogs on and we can just sit around and talk about dogs, because let's be blunt, they're more interesting than kids anyway. Just I sit next to a guy at work, and he's got a couple of kids, and I never really ask, and he's just suddenly got a puppy, and almost every day I'm like, "How's the dog? How's the puppy?" He talks about his kids sometimes. It's like the kids. It's like, but you've got a puppy. Dogs are good. So anyway, yes, with that distraction, I've now lost the train of thought I had there for the next question. It led logically on from that discussion there. Yeah, I've forgotten it. There's a good. How's that for professional mind blank right there?
Fantastic.
So, yeah, that's one I suppose I would ask. Terrain. It comes up quite a lot. Now, Kings War, unlike, back in the old days of 40k, where, let's be blunt, terrain was a pain in the arse. It was like 2 hills, 2 woods, and put them in the corners and let's have a fight in a nice big flat table. That was the norm, let's be blunt. And Kings War, the terrain, now I've been playing it a lot more, I find, the terrain is important. I don't mind if someone whacks something impassable in the middle of the table, for instance. But is there anything around the terrain rules you'd like to see change a bit more? Or is there anything, again, there you'd tweak? How do we actually feel about it? How do you feel they're working now 2 sort of systems in? Do you think they're good? Do you think it's where it needs to be?
Well, to be fair, it's essentially one system in. The terrain was completely rewritten for 2nd edition.
Sorry, my bad, I've forgotten.
In 1st edition, it was true line of sight, so you could see through everything regardless, because no one has a forest that actually blocks line of sight. And you would move at half speed through difficult terrain, can't move at the double.
Yeah.
And so if you had a shambling unit and it snagged on terrain...
Oh, yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
It's stuck there for the rest of the game.
Uh-huh.
You're not
Funnily
getting it
enough,
out.
we have actually just recently been talking about forests and such, and leader points, and also individuals. So you've got one on a mount, you can't see it. Oh, I'll just pivot into the forest. Oh, suddenly I can see through it and charge. Not really what we intended.
Yeah.
I didn't realise you could. I'd assume you'd have to see the target before you did the pivot.
Well, no, because that's how we can charge in any direction, because they pivot to that direction. And then you draw a line of sight from the front.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
That's a nice little trick. I'll have to remember that.
It's not going to be there for long, I'm afraid.
Oh. Just I've got no.
Yeah, we are talking about
horses.
rewording that.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yes,
intended.
No, there's quite a few tweaks that I've made to the terrain system for 3rd edition. So when it came to the 2nd edition terrain, I pretty much wrote that from scratch myself. But annoyingly, the rest of the rules committee often looks to ask me to specifically word a rule if they're not sure how to correctly and technically word a rule, like when they say when something is within 6 inches rather than while it's within 6 inches, because that's 2 very different meanings to that. But the annoying thing is that you guys don't check my work very closely.
We just assume it'll be perfect, just like you.
So the terrain rules could have perhaps done with a few more eyes on them to pick out some of the potential fallings with it. But yeah, come 3rd edition, we can tidy that up properly, and we're discussing fixing a couple of the bigger issues with it with errata at the moment.
Cool. Excellent. That's good to know. So Rules question. What was
Did that answer your question, Walter? I can't remember if that
I
was.
can't
no,
remember.
that did actually answer my question. He came to sudden abrupt stop there again. He cut me off guard because I was thinking ahead. I was actually quite interested in that one, so I wasn't actually thinking of the next question lined up. But no, it was just genuinely interesting.
I can't
How
even
much
remember
would
what
change in the
the question
terrain?
was.
He was asking about
Oh.
terrain, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
the terrain.
And then we kind of got sidetracked with the
yeah,
individuals.
sorry.
It's all the same. It was just what
Yeah,
you would change in terrain. It sounds like there's still things there. You guys, it's not quite exactly where you want it to be yet.
Oh, it's working fine. When we say that we're messing about with the edges, these are edge cases.
Yeah.
They're not common. They're just little things that we could do with tidying up. They're not massive changes at all.
Mhm.
On the whole, we're very happy with how the terrain works, I think.
Yeah, me too.
We are just talking tweaks.
Yep.
Not. I perhaps keep saying problems. That's overstating what it actually is. But yeah,
One thing
So,
I am
something-
liking recently is the fact that people are using more terrain because
Yeah.
initially people weren't using it quite so much, and then we put out in the FAQs we were suggesting 6 or 7 plus a couple of obstacles as sort of like a minimum, and people have rolled with that. I mean, I heard at the was it the Masters, I believe they had like 9 to 11 pieces or something, which is great. Okay, it's not so good for gun lines, but I mean that's not the end of the world, is it? So it's nice to see a decent amount of terrain on these tables, and it looks good and it gives more challenges. People playing over just open tables, I mean, it might be okay for a little while, but it can as all of us know, it can so hugely change things. So
yeah, terrain is such a big part of the game. It makes it so much more tactical. One of the things that people sometimes say is, how do you resolve a standoff where you've got 2 units that have got the same speed or whatever, but you just use terrain to either block charges or make them hindered.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
And the scenarios really play into that along with the terrain.
That's the other cool
There's-
thing recently about the cookbook, of course. We've doubled the number of scenarios. We've got 12 now, and that's amazing. I've really been enjoying playing some of the new ones at various events and just in general.
Not a chance to play many of them yet, unfortunately. But that was actually just going to be my next question. So the Clash of Kings book has been out now for I don't know, quite a few months now, isn't it? What's this? This is April, January, February, March.
Yeah.
It's about a couple of months now.
2 months.
Yeah, so there's been through a few tournaments now with the new sort of rule set and new magic items and stuff and new spells. What's the feedback looking like for it? How's it looking?
Actually,
Everybody
like
loves
6 weeks.
mixed cock.
I'm going to mute you, Dan, in a minute.
It's been nearly 100% positive. I think the only negative feedback we've had is from people who are refusing to try it. But
I think the most negative feedback we got was before the book was even out.
yeah,
Right? It was the rumors and things that people were talking about, or they'd hear one little piece but not know the whole picture.
yeah,
And then got a lot of negative flack then. But once the book was out, really there hasn't been a lot of negative comments on it.
It wasn't even the book, was it? It was actually the tournament pack for Adepticon that people saw. People saw. They were like, "Run!" But then actually, once people saw all the new artifacts and things, it was like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome!" And yeah, go on.
Yeah. Touching back on terrain, there is one thing I'd like to see us eventually do regarding terrain is, and this doesn't have to be a standard part of the game per se, but maybe some side rules in a campaign book or something like that, which would be some building interaction rules that just aren't there right now. There's no way to enter a building or do any siege battles and things like that, which I think would be a lot of fun to add into Kings of War. So I could see that being something that changes as far as terrain goes. Whether or not that comes out onto the table with your standard gameplay is really yet to be seen. But
yeah, we have always planned a sort of a siege book, and likewise we've been planning obviously the book with Northern Alliance, and not in any detail, and of course we've also talked at some point putting out the big monsters expansion, so giant dragons, titans, huge monstrosities on the table, but yeah, we haven't worked on those yet.
So it sounds like you've got
One day.
quite a lot in the pipeline then that you'd like to do. Assuming Mantic goes, yeah, we'll build those models that you guys are trying to sell.
Oh, yeah.
Mantic are generally happy with us writing books for them, typically.
right.
Yeah.
They're not going to complain about more models being sold, really, are they?
Well, no.
Well, you'd hope not, or else the business model's a bit wrong then.
But yeah, that is the core thing with Mantic at the moment and going forward. If they put out new units in books, they want to be making the models for them. So
Yeah.
So
And they want unique things, not things that people have already done.
Yeah.
So yeah, they plan on moving away from the sort of the old style, which I suppose is what they did was wrote army lists for GW stuff, and then supplied their own models sort of you could use as well. Are they moving away from that now?
Yeah. So we're planning on a brand new unit, which is like a dwarf with a top hat and a cigar. He's sort of flying in a jetpack or something. I don't know. It's completely individual to Mantic. No, we're not planning that. Sorry.
This was someone from Mantic's going, damn, they've given it away again. Through our plan. So the rotation of the magic items in and out then. Next year we're going to see the return of the Enscrolled Armour and something else dropping out.
I don't think we'll see the return of those 3 artifacts, to be honest.
No.
But who knows?
Yeah, it's really hard to say.
Nick is saying, I think, pretty clearly, you pair have played it close to your chest.
Well, we haven't really discussed
I think defense.
No, we
haven't discussed it. But defense 6 in general is something that needs to be limited in ways and
in speed.
And speed, yeah. So.
Speed is what needs limiting.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you don't mind Def 6 so much if it's on something that's a bit slower.
Yeah.
I see the logic. I still like my 20-inch dragon. With 20-inch vampire lords. Mutter, nerf my army, you get. So,
and brought that defense down.
I had no problem with it personally, but that was just me. I
still will say the vampire is very, very good with the Clash of Kings change.
Yeah.
You just might not see 3 of them on the table. You may see 1, which is a good thing in my opinion. But
yeah, and it's killable.
Right.
They were always killable. I could lose them without any major problems some of the time.
Play better.
If you put him in the wrong spot, you could. But if you didn't want to risk the vampire, it wasn't going to die.
You weren't going to get it shot off. No, that's true enough.
And it could hold up very, very big units for a long time in the middle of the board.
Yeah, when I was facing Josh at the Masters with his 4 vampires, I pretty much decided, because we were playing a pillage or something, I'll just kill all his zombies and then he can't take any of the objectives. I think I did kill 1 vampire, but yeah.
Yeah, so after that, I thought the scenarios kind of nerfed the power of the individuals. I dropped all the individuals in this Def 6 vampire, other than the one in the dragon, granted. But it's fair enough, I'm not complaining too much. It forces you to take other magic items. So that being said then, we've got 5 minutes left then. Each of you, what's the one magic item that you chop next time round? Or what was item number 4 in your list that you would have got rid of?
We could have removed 5 if we wanted. We actually decided not to. Originally, Wings of Honeymaze was shortlisted. I specifically argued to keep that in the end because there was armies such as dwarves, for example, which actually really does help them. Plus, people have made funky models where it looks good, and it seemed to hurt people's creativity, which is obviously why that was left. There's no other artifacts in there that I would say, I dislike this. Honestly, no. There's artifacts that are common, for example, Mac Wars Potion, but I don't have an issue with that. No, not at all.
Right. You see a lot of the, giving Crushing Strength 1 to a unit, or giving, the Pathfinder to a unit and things, but that's not a bad thing. That is, I think that helps maintain the balance of the game overall.
Yeah, people kind of made this mistaken assumption that the reason that you remove artifacts is because they're used all the time. And that's not the case. If the artifacts are unfairly skewing people's builds, so I know I'm going to face a Defense 6 Dragon in every single army I face.
Oh look, Ogre ally shooters with +1 to hit.
Then that means that you have to take tools to deal with that. Whereas
well, in fairness, Dan, that one was removed with the change to the allies not being able to take artifacts.
Yeah, sure.
But we still saw a lot of that, +1 shooting, and then backed up with the Bane Chant, which of course we nerfed the Bane Chant a little bit as well, making it the same for close combat, but much harder to get off in for ranged combat units.
I got it off this weekend on a unit with throwing dogs.
Nice.
Against.
I've seen elves getting it off quite a bit actually because they got elite.
Yeah,
There's still a reasonable chance they'll get it off on shooting. So.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not likely to take the elf shooter horde plus a Bane chanting thing just for the sake of taking a Bane chanter.
It's not a standard, no, and you used to see it basically every elf list. Had it. And it's once again, like touching back on what Nick was saying, it's not necessarily that if something's taken all the time that's a bad thing, but it's also not any fun to play against for people. So that was, I think, the biggest thing there. I don't know of any artifacts off the top of my head that I would want to see removed. I think we're going to be faced with a really tough choice going into next year's Clash of Kings pack on deciding what changes to any of those spells to make, what changes to any of the artifacts to make, because obviously our goal is to keep things fluid and fresh and new each kind of tournament season or each year, and which means some of the new artifacts may have to go and other ones come in, and we haven't really discussed which ones those are or changes to those new spells and things.
I mean, potentially we could swap all of them. I don't know.
Correct. Yeah.
That would mix things up. Who knows?
I'd be surprised. I would genuinely be quite surprised if you rewrite up another 20 artifacts and still find something else to add in the rules there that isn't too complicated.
Yeah, that's the other thing is we might be kind of running out of effects that we can do quite simply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are starting to approach the point in the game now where you're going to start repeating yourself very soon unless you start adding those little special extra rules that bring in that nice level of rules creep.
Well, we've talked about a couple of rules that would be very interesting to add to the game, but we're not going to probably get into those right now. But I don't think it would, the careful thing that the rules committee has to do is balance like making things fun, new, and different without changing the balance of the game overall. I think right now what we're seeing from analyzing a lot of the tournament scores and things like that is basically every army can win. There isn't an army that a talented tactician can take and say not have a chance of getting first place at any given tournament. So I think we're really happy with where the balance is, but you want to keep pushing new things into the game without changing that balance flow. So it's a tough challenge for the rules committee to do.
But that's the cool thing, of course, with the new units coming out later in the year. That'll mix things up a bit more. So.
Right.
Yeah, I have to admit, well, that's a good controversial point to wind this up on. I think I'd say controversial, but I don't. Then again, Tom won Fools of War there with Legion of Rhodesia? Is it the Rhodesia? They're called? What are they called again?
League of Rhodia.
League of Rhodia.
Yep.
That's the one. And,
it's
God
a solid army and a solid build.
Yep.
Andy played it very well.
Yeah,
I know I was beaten by it.
That's why it's solid. Dan got beaten, so it must have been filth.
Do you know?
We just saw Orcs win Adepticon Clash of Kings, and Goblins came in second. I mean, it's any army
can. One, but yeah.
Nope. But we got a lot of people felt like Orcs were underpowered, and then he came in and won.
To be fair, they were saying that, and Orcs were doing okay in the right hands. And we decided eventually, well, let's do the Fury thing. Let's give them a few boosts, just to some of the units. We're not trying to buff the army overall. We're just trying to give them a couple of extra tools. But as soon as we decided on that, before the book had come out, Orcs suddenly started winning every single tournament. And there was a period of about a month where the book had yet to come out. It's yet to be adopted, but yet Orcs were still winning every tournament. So we were a bit like, have we made a mistake giving them some buffs here?
I mean, of course, bearing in mind what I was saying earlier, Fury's probably worth circa 5 points or so. So it's not a huge. If that was the least of all the buffs we gave. Yeah. Obviously, Salamanders and Trident Realms got bigger buffs. But I actually came up against an Orc Crudger at the weekend. I was like, ha, wavered. He's like, ha, Fury, damn you. Whose idea was that? Yes,
I believe that one actually was yours, Dan.
It was my idea, yes.
Well, that's the sole reason I put in the Guardian Brutes in my herd list, is for that fury. I love being able to, if I live through your charge, I'm going to be able to hit you back. It's a big deal. And with orcs, when they're these big blocks that are meant to take a charge, not getting wavered, being able to hit back is a huge deal. So no, I'm excited for the orcs in the future. I think I love the balance. Just getting back to that, I loved the balance of this game overall, coming from other game systems. This is a tactical tournament player's dream system for me. So
yeah, what we always need to acknowledge is that there's no such thing as a perfectly balanced game.
Right.
Even chess, it's not perfectly balanced. I think it's something like 52% wins to white.
Yeah, white
Right.
is an advantage.
Yeah. So even in a game that's perfectly balanced, it's still not perfectly balanced. And when we're talking about we want to tweak this up here, we want to tweak that down there, we want to make these little tweaks and stuff, we really are tweaking. We're not saying that anything is unusable, that anything is unwinnable, that anything you can't beat it. That's really, really not the case. Every time that someone has said, oh, this army can't win, well, Jeff Swan has taken it to a tournament, having not seen the list until the morning of when he arrived at the tournament, and he won with Trident Realm, first place.
Right.
There we
The
go.
list he hadn't even seen before. So when we're saying that we're tweaking some things, that we'd like to increase the points on that, it really is tweaking. It's not something that's gonna throw a game. If you're gonna win, you're gonna win probably regardless of skill.
I'm going to jump in there just for finish up because we've actually had a question from the live feed. Tommy's asked anything for hills plans such as -1 for charging uphill. So I think this is back to the terrain conversation because in the slight little lag.
So
is that in reference to the historical rule changing that change up there, and whether that will come into fantasy?
We could potentially add it as an optional rule in third, maybe. I don't know.
maybe if we did a complete rebalancing in third, it's possible. But already hills are so very, very powerful, especially for shooters. And I wouldn't want to make them even more powerful in this edition.
It does seem popular with historical fans first, so I don't know.
Yeah. I personally like the rule. I don't see us adding it in for a mid-second edition. That would be my guess. It would be something that would come in third, but that's just a guess at this point. But I do like the rule.
Cool. Very much. Well, that's us just after 9. We've overrun by a few minutes, but that's not too bad because no Chris has to be away, and some of us have work tomorrow. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks Chris, Nick, and Dan.
Thank you, Walter.
Hopefully we'll do another live show in the not too distant future. I'm going to try and make them reasonably regular about the same time. So
Cool.
like, share, all the rest of it, all that groovy stuff you're supposed to see at the end of a feed. And thanks very much everyone. See you next time.
See ya.
Cheers.